So it seems like everybody on Watch YouTube has been building their dream watch on AliExpress, and I wanted to take a swing at it because I have a confession to make. I'm an addict. A watch addict, that is. In this video, I will be building a custom watch that is sort of like if Rolex, Tudor, and Grand Seiko collaborated to create a magnificent watch with a major caveat. That's because this watch was a nightmare to build. And as a bonus for you all, I will be comparing the buying and building process on AliExpress and NamokiMods to see where you should buy your watch parts from. And I'll be comparing it to my Pagani GMT to see if you should just cave in and buy a pre-built. One definite pro of building an AliExpress watch is affordability. This watch cost me around 120 Canadian dollars, excluding the costly mistakes I made, which I will get to, but that is a lot cheaper compared to Namoki's cheapest watch kit offering, which costs around 330 Canadian dollars. Another pro of purchasing AliExpress watch parts is variety. However, there is a caveat once again. That's because even though there are thousands of watch parts to purchase, in terms of design variety, it's kind of lacking. Most watch parts take inspiration from Rolex parts. So if you don't want a Rolex homage, I think you're better suited with NamokiMods watch parts. Another thing I noticed is that some people have complained about AliExpress shipping because they say it takes forever to arrive, and I do think that AliExpress choice shipping is actually quite efficient. It took me only around 2 weeks for all the watch parts to come in. And however, I did make the mistake of purchasing a GMT hand on a proprietary shipping method, and it was supposed to take 2 months to arrive, so I had to cancel that, cave in, and just purchase the more expensive GMT hand because it utilized AliExpress choice shipping. One unfortunate part about building an AliExpress watch is that AliExpress has poor quality control, and the dial is very indicative of that in my case. So unfortunately, the markers just before the 12 o'clock marker and just after the 12 o'clock marker are misaligned, and it makes reading the dial just that much more unnecessarily difficult. Another thing I noticed on the dial was that even though it's clearly an NH34 dial because it uses GMT markers, the dial hole wasn't big enough. It was actually fitted for an NH35, and that meant that I had to use basically a filer to enlarge the hole so it could actually fit the movement. And that actually caused a lot more problems down the line because it meant that because I did not actually enlarge the dial hole to the adequate size, it messed up the GMT hand's movement, and then I ended up changing the date at the wrong time, which broke the movement, and I had to purchase another movement. And moving on from that problem, ironically, I tried to hedge against messing up another build and having to wait for parts to come in. So because I messed up the seconds hand on my previous build, I purchased 2 watch handsets so that I thought, hey, if I mess up one handset, then I can just use the other one, and I broke the movement. Such is life. Another thing I ran into was the fact that the stem was not fitting properly on the crown, and I had to use Loctite to kind of weirdly glue it on, and it's not fully glued on properly. Another thing I want to mention is that I spent $120 on this watch build, excluding the watch parts and excluding the extra movement I had to purchase, and that is a lot of money for a student budget. So I'd really appreciate it if you left this video a like if you're enjoying this. And I'm also just recovering from a cold, so if my voice sounds a little bit weird, that's the reason why. I almost forgot to mention that if you leave a comment, I will respond to each and every one of them. Let's talk design and functionality. One of the pros of building your own watch is that it's literally one of a kind. Nobody else has this watch on the wrist unless they happen to configure their watch with the exact same watch parts as me. Another pro in my books is that it's the smallest GMT that I can make. For some background, I was scouring the internet looking for a GMT that was under 40 millimeters and also affordable, being in the $100 to $300 range, and I couldn't find one that included the 24-hour dial markings on the dial. So I decided to build my own. And that means that because this is a 36 millimeter watch, it fits my itty bitty wrist proportionally, at least I think so. I personally enjoy the way that this watch looks a lot, and again, this is a subjective aspect of a watch, but I'll just get into it because it is a custom watch. And I really enjoy the fact that this includes a Datejust case, because one of my favorite watch YouTubers, Christian Zerone on Theo and Harris, one of his favorite watches is the Datejust, and he wears it on a leather band, and so I've gotten kind of accustomed to seeing that watch kind of everywhere, and I really do enjoy the fluted bezel and just the way that it sits on my wrist. Additionally, I personally don't like the Cyclops, and I know that is a signature aspect of the Rolex design, and that's kind of why I didn't want it on my watch. I didn't want it to look too homage-y, so I purchased a watch case without it. Also, I purchased Tudor Snowflake hands. Reason being, they're my favorite watch hands, and they're one of the reasons that I was drawn to Tudor as a brand. I really just liked the way that their hands looked, and then I looked into their history, but really the first thing that drew me in was those snowflake hands. One of the first watches that I aspired to have was a Rolex Pepsi GMT, and that's kind of why I asked for a Pagani design homage when I was more into homages or clomages, and it's mainly because I really do enjoy the functionality of GMT watches, and I know I've actually talked to other people who do use Rolex GMTs and they don't actually use the functionality all that much, but I personally find it very handy as I have friends who are traveling the world and using a collar GMT is quite useful. One of my favorite aspects of Grand Seiko is their dials. Their dials are what make Grand Seiko in my opinion, and that's what drew me to the Grand Seiko Snowflake, because I really did like the dial. When I was looking for a dial, I wasn't even intending on getting something that looked like a Grand Seiko, but I happened to find a watch dial that had 24-hour markings, and it fit the watch case, and it was affordable, and it looked like a Grand Seiko dial, so I purchased this dial. And I know some people aren't too fond of the idea of having Grand Seiko on their dial because it's not actually a Grand Seiko dial, and I will admit that yes, if I had the option to purchase a good-looking dial that had the 24-hour markings on it and it didn't say Grand Seiko, I would definitely choose that, but unfortunately I didn't have that choice. Additionally, I do think that the color scheme on the watch is something that is sort of tailored to me, because it does sort of remind me of the Grand Seiko Snowflake with the white, the silver, and the blue all mixed together. I personally really enjoy it. One of the major drawbacks for this watch in terms of functionality is unfortunately that it keeps really poor time. It loses around 15 seconds per day, and that is one of the worst accuracies I've had on an NH34 thus far. And it's not horrible, but personally I'd rather have a watch run 30 seconds fast compared to 15 seconds slow, and I'm not about to regulate my watch. I don't have the tools for that, and I'm pretty sure that the tools would cost more than the watch. If I get more into watch modding, perhaps I will look into that, but those are the sorts of things you run into when you purchase AliExpress watch movements. One thing that hasn't been mentioned, I believe, in the watch modding community is the insecurity, I guess, pertaining to the water resistance of your custom watch. For instance, my watch crown wasn't installed properly, so that is one potential vulnerability for water to get into the movement. And even if you did install everything correctly, unless you're about to water test your watch, you can't really trust the water resistance ratings that the manufacturers give you because you installed it yourself. So now that I told you all about AliExpress watch building, let's talk about how it compares to NamokiMods. The first thing I want to mention is that NamokiMods has better quality control. I mean, I haven't heard thus far about a watch dial missing markers or having misaligned markers or having an improperly sized watch dial hole. Those things just don't occur on the NamokiMods side of things. Additionally, I do think that the quality of materials is just better on NamokiMods watch parts, and their customer service is better compared to AliExpress's essentially lack of it. However, NamokiMods does charge a premium for the higher quality service and watch parts that they offer. So one of the most obvious differences between building a watch and buying a pre-built from the likes of Pagani is the fact that you don't actually get to build the watch. So that may be a pro, maybe a con for you, because you save the stress of not knowing whether you'd be able to successfully build a watch, but you'd also miss out on all the fun of building a watch. Also, one of the more objective pros of buying a pre-built from Pagani Design is that their quality control standards are just that bit higher. When they say that they have 200 meters of water resistance, it's probably not 200 meters, maybe around 50, but it is more assuring than building your own watch and not even knowing if it can withstand 1 meter of water. Also, there are less chances of missing a marker on your dial or having a bezel misaligned compared to purchasing from these kind of no-name brands that give you these different watch parts. So moving on to the cons of the pre-built AliExpress watch world is that you're mostly limited to homages. So if you want to purchase a custom watch, you can't really do so on AliExpress, at least from the likes of the bigger name brands such as Pagani Designs. And even if they do make their own original design, you don't get any say in that, so you just have to buy what they give you. And if you do want to mod it afterwards, it might be more expensive than just building it yourself. But again, this is all dependent on where you live, the sales you have, and the companies you're buying from, because it also might be less cost effective to build your own watch. So to conclude this video and finally answer the question you came here for, should you build your own AliExpress watch? Bearing in mind that I had a nightmare of a time trying to build my own, my answer to that would be yes. Even though it is very stressful and there are moments where you don't think it was worth it, I think that the payout is completely worth it. So there are definitely pros to buying a pre-built. As mentioned before, it's completely almost hassle-free because you don't have to worry about building your own watch, and NamokiMods definitely has their pros because it is as hassle-free as you can get when you are building your own watch. But I do think that the independence, the input of your own creativity when designing your own watch is truly unmatched on AliExpress in terms of affordability especially. However, I do think that if you are kind of on the fence about building your own watch, I would suggest, first of all, buying an AliExpress watch to kind of test the waters and see if you're okay with the sort of quality you get on AliExpress. And then once you're okay with that, buy a watch kit on NamokiMods, because it kind of provides training wheels for you in the sense that you know that all the watch parts are going to fit and create a watch, and you know that everything's compatible, and you also have the customer support that NamokiMods offers. And once you've done all that, then potentially I would suggest going to design sort of your own watch on AliExpress and putting that together. If you are interested in seeing watch pics, my watch pics, I have an Instagram account. I also have a Watch Crunch account where I post a whole bunch of polls and also photos. So I definitely recommend you checking out that because I also post there more often. And if you want to check out the full build process of my NamokiMods watch building, my watch build, I would click over here, and I also have my Pagani designed GMT watch review over here, and I'll also link all of the parts in the description and all these videos in the description. And I also have a 5% off promo code that I'll leave in the description if you want to purchase anything off NamokiMods. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that this watch patinas like your favorite watch and it gets better and better over time.